Ayo, it's wise, intelligent, the poor righteous teacher himself, founder of the algorithm where we keep the culture on code. And welcome to episode 11 of Shut the Fuck Up, a series of short communications where we debunk popular myths circulating in this culture and community that serve no other purpose but to pathologize black people. And myth number 11, you're stuck in the past. This myth is used to dismiss anyone placing current events, the present, in its proper historical context. It's usually accompanied by the intellectually lazy diagnosis that you need to move on and stop blaming the white man. Let me be absolutely clear. When people tell me I'm stuck in the past, I have to ask, whose past are you trying to forget and why? Because history ain't a dusty museum exhibit or a moral anecdote for textbooks. It's the blueprint for everything we see around us. It is the root system of the tree we're all sitting under. When we talk about slavery, Jim Crow, segregation, or redlining, we're not talking about ancient history. We're talking about policies and practices that are directly connected to people still alive today. We're talking about how white families were given land through the Homestead Act while black families were denied it. How the GI Bill helped build a white middle class after World War II while black veterans were systematically excluded. How the FHA and banks drew red lines around black neighborhoods, blocking wealth accumulation through home ownership while subsidizing white suburbia. We're talking about how Italian, Irish, and Jewish immigrants were able to assimilate into whiteness, benefit from these white-only policies, and gain control of entire segments of the U.S. economy as a result, creating opportunities and pathways that aged out the notorious gang violence that was taking the lives of their youth and wreaking havoc on their neighborhoods. We're talking about how developing black communities were bombed and burned to ashes, literally and economically, and how those who survived it were never compensated. These were not isolated incidents. These were coordinated government-sanctioned acts that built white wealth and simultaneously deliberately extracted black wealth. These acts defined the shape of American capitalism, the education system, the housing markets, the criminal justice system, and the social psychology. That's not dwelling in the past. That's a root cause analysis of our current social condition. Ignoring history is not a passive act. It's a powerful form of social control. Historical amnesia enables the manipulation of public perception and the justification of imperial and economic exploitation. The aim of cutting African studies programs, shutting down African American museum exhibits, and penalizing teaching black history is so that history can be told from the perspective of oppressors, erasing the struggles and agency of the oppressed, reinforcing systems of injustice. A people cut off from their historical consciousness become psychologically vulnerable, unable to define or defend their interests. This means when you dismiss history as something in the past with no bearing on the present, you surrender critical thought, social justice, and cultural survival. Because too many of us are woefully ahistorical, the system is able to remix the same injustices every 25 to 30 years. Policies like vagrancy laws, 1866, the Harrison Act, 1914, COINTELPRO-GIP, 1956-71, the Comprehensive Drug Control Act, 1970, the Crime Bill, 1994, the Strengthening and Unleashing Law Enforcement Executive Order, 2025, all serve the same purpose. And whenever somebody point this out, that historical ignorance shows up to remind us that we're stuck in the past and need to move on when it's the system that's stuck in the past and hasn't moved on. And this failure to study, understand, and face history is the very reason we don't understand the present and why collectively Black America is still socially, economically, and politically stuck in the past, with our collective condition only getting worse. Now, this way some say, well, Black people just need to be more accountable. But accountability assumes a level playing field. If we were playing Monopoly and I ain't let you buy property for the first 300 turns, then finally said, all right, now you can play, but no complaining, just work harder. What would you call that? Fair? Accountable? A meritocracy? Or rigged? Hard work, they say. Black America has always worked hard. From enslaved labor, building everything from the economy to the White House, to domestic workers, Pullman porters, assembly lines, janitorial work, essential services, soldiers, to the creators, entrepreneurs, inventors, and revolutionaries. We've shown up, and often without safety nets, legal protections, or equal compensation. The question isn't whether Black America has worked hard. The question is why that hard work was never allowed to compound into wealth, security, or power like it did for others. And let's not ignore the violence. White domestic terrorism, from lynching to the burning of entire communities, poisoning livestock and destroying Black farms, to today's police terrorism, has always functioned as a tool to keep Black progress in check. This is not an emotional assertion. It's a historical documentation. It's FBI records. It's court cases. It's eyewitness testimonies. It's intentionally flooded black communities at the bottom of your favorite lake resort. It's skyscrapers, parks, and golf courses built atop unmarked graves and smoldering fucking archives. So when someone says, stop blaming white people, or you need to move on, or you're stuck in the past, tell them to shut the fuck up. Because what they often mean is, stop telling the truth that makes me uncomfortable. But this ain't about guilt. It's about honesty. You can't heal what you won't acknowledge. You can't build liberty and justice for all on top of silence. You can't tell people to move on while standing on the neck of their history. This ain't about shaming anyone. It's about recognizing that America's institutions, its policies, its schools, its banks, its police, its courts, its neighborhoods were not born equal. They were engineered, and if you inherited the privilege, my good brother Diallo Kenyatta properly defined as pathology from those systems, whether you ask for it or not, you have a responsibility to help dismantle what's unjust within them, unless, of course, you're good with the injustice. If so, cool. Just stop being a bitch about it, embrace it, and enjoy the fruits of the treachery. To ignore history is not neutral. It is an act of violence against truth. And in the words of James Baldwin, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. So no, I'm not stuck in the past. I'm refusing to lie about it. And that is how we build a future worth living in for everybody. Peace.